Recording, and we are good. Hello, Dad.
Hello.
How are things?
Well, great. I have total freedom here on the mountain, and unlike so many people around the world, so it's no different to what it was a few months ago or a year ago. It's I just go out in the morning, go to the church with a great view on the sea, or go to the little forest here, or whatever. Just the same as ever.
So
It's
you're one of the
fantastic
few
now.
people who life has changed very little for.
I didn't hear that.
I said, for most people, life has changed quite dramatically, but you're one of the few people who there's been very little change in your day to day because you're already in more or less isolation.
It hasn't changed at all. If it changed a bit, it's psychological effect because realizing what happens in Belgrade and other parts of the world, and some people are locked in literally in their rooms and apartments in the large buildings. They can't go out at all, and so then you suddenly realize where you are. It's like in paradise, because I usually go every couple of weeks, maybe a week or 10 days. I go downtown, try to stay as short as I can, get my supplies of food and some tools, or whatever I need for the next 10 days, and I come back here, and it's great.
Mm. And we were actually supposed to be out there, booked a holiday to come and visit you, and obviously that's not happening. We're right in the middle of the lockdown, so I thought this would be a good way to make the best of the situation and just have these conversations in a recorded form so that other people can see them, because we're always talking on the phone and talking about health, talking about fitness. So I think there are lots of people who would be interested in some of those conversations.
You know what's really interesting, and it's years ago, like 10 years ago, I wrote an article when I was in Dubai, for some of the Dubai's newspapers, how to run, I forgot now, was it a mile or 2 miles inside your room? So it sounds funny, but what I meant is really how to, inside of your maybe small room, you can exert the same amount of energy as somebody who runs 2 miles. So that was at the time where there was no problem at all. People can go and run. But you see, some years passed, and now we are in the situation that what I was suggesting those 15 years ago is absolutely ideal. For something like this, I have to explain some other time. It's basically you don't run around circles, or you don't do anything like that, but you do a couple of exercises which require even more energy than running 2 miles. And so whether you're in your room or in the park or on the beach, it does make any difference in terms of energy output. When you become conscious of that, then you don't have any problem being on your balcony outside or inside the room, knowing that within next 20 minutes you will have done your workout. You don't have to go back home from wherever you were, park, gym. You're there already. So it takes you 15, 20 seconds to get, 1 minute, 2 minutes to get to your bathroom, take a shower, and you've done the same workout. In fact, the workout that I'm even doing now here, it's obviously it's for some future conversations or talks. Uh, if I do 300 squats or 400 every morning, that's equivalent to walking several miles, or maybe even doing some biceps curl. And on top of that, I do a few upper body exercises. So in about 30, 40 minutes, which I find quite pleasant actually doing this, my workout is finished. So 40 minutes later, I'm free. The same workout that somebody would do in the gym would be, let's say, half an hour to get to the gym, but usually it might be more. Let's say another 15 minutes to go through the regular procedure and go to the changing room, go and find your spot, your dumbbell, barbell, or the machine, or whatever. That's another 15 minutes. Then you work out, but the workout is not intense almost for anybody. You know that I worked for 3 or 4 decades around the world, different gyms, big gyms, and I even videotaped most people for some documentary that I wanted to do. And nobody does the intense workout, meaning that you start your workout, you don't have any intervals of any rests, anything. So when you finish whatever you're doing, you're out. But that's not the way people train. They come inside, they do 1 or 2 sets of this or that. They chat with somebody, or they look around, or they do all kinds of things. So the actual work is really, obviously I did some videotaping, and then I was calculating how much time a particular person spent on actually working, and how much time passive time. Passive time is anything else outside of your physical activity. And it turns out that that's longer than much longer. Maybe 70% is really passive time, and 30% is active time. So we called it time investment. Time investment factor of your training is very important. Sometimes people don't think about it because they don't realize that maybe hour or 2 hours spent to get to the gym or to get to somewhere and come back, that time could be used much more effectively than going somewhere, parking, going upstairs, going downstairs. So what's really interesting, and I'll finish here, the interesting thing is that suddenly in the 21st century, year 2020, suddenly the entire world is that situation that they cannot really go and do what they usually do. So they have to do it at home. And funny enough, I have been doing it at home when I had all the gyms. I was a director or managers or 4 or 5 gyms around the world, in Dubai, in London, in Hawaii, in California. So I had anything, your big gymnasium, any equipment, and I still worked out on my own. And that's a real irony. And now that I don't have the gyms or anything, which I only used as my job. I didn't use it to train there. And ironically, people now have to be outside of their gyms and to try and think what they can do. I guess they're desperate because to switch from something that you've been doing for many years and to try to improvise something inside of your home or your house, it's not really as simple as it seems. Technically, you can arrange that, but psychologically, that's after a few days you realize it's really difficult.
Mm. Well,
do you agree?
I do. I mean, I use a gym. I have used a gym until recently, fairly regularly. And I know you've said to me many times over the years that I don't need a gym, and why don't I just train from home? So it is an adjustment, and there are a couple of aspects to that adjustment. One is equipment, determining what equipment you need and can it actually get a hold of. Because at the moment, if you look on the internet, one of the biggest scarcities is gym equipment. You can't find a dumbbell or a weights plate or anything of substance. So that's one limitation. And then the other is the psychological aspect that you mentioned of people who are used to training in groups or doing certain workouts that depend on specialist equipment, or just that motivation that you get from being around other people or outside of your home in a different environment. So how would you, what would be your suggestions that people can use? Maybe we don't have to go into specifics today because we'll have a few conversations, but
Yeah.
what are some things you could suggest?
So something is factual, and that I believe, and I would bet on that in the entire world there isn't one person who was the manager or who had a gym for free, that was his job, who actually trained at home and never trained in the gym. I would bet there isn't anybody in the world. Therefore, in these circumstances now, when you want to know how to train at home, you need to do one thing, which is change your paradigm, your thinking about your training, because we are conditioned to think in a certain way. If you say cardiovascular training, people immediately see in their head, they see the runner running or somebody cycling, or that's cardiovascular training. If you say strength training, they see a big fat muscle weightlifter lifting tons over his head. If you say bodybuilding, then you see those people doing biceps, triceps, bench press, posing in front of the mirrors. So you have to get rid of all of that if you want to train at home. For one, if you're a bodybuilder, of course, I'm not very good to give you a good advice. You do what you have been doing in the gym, do it at home. But if you want to maintain your level of energy level, we call it energy output. And that's really equivalent to your vitality, your overall health. Then, of course, you should talk to me, because I'm doing it right now. On the mountain, it's the best conditions I ever had. I can do it in front of on the field, or I can do it in the house, in the backyard, or wherever. But there were times when I would go from the big gym and go to my relatively small room and do my exercises there. This is not really in this interview or this talk. I can't go into details, but I would suggest that people should at least give me their opinion or their solutions to this new situation, to write it down and send it to me so I can see from that how they think, and I believe 90% of them I can redirect and put them to training that they will never give up, even when everything is fine, and then they continue going back to their gyms. They will keep this as a reserve. In fact, as something that if something happens in the future, and according to all the experts in the world, this is not the last virus. This is not the last pandemic that happened. This is only the beginning of many of similar situations, for whatever reasons. From now on, you better have your reserve method of training at home and rely on that much more than anything else. So you won't depend on the space, you won't depend on the climate conditions, you won't depend on financial aspect of it, so you don't have to pay anything, you're doing it at home. But you need to really conquer this different approach, psychological, philosophical, and physical. If you conquer this, I can't say what I'm going to do when I'm 80. I'm now past 70. But I hope that even months before I die, I'll be doing this training. Probably with the intensity, lower intensity. But the point is, it is a part of my life, and it's a pleasant part. It's not an obligation. It's not my job. It's not something like, oh, I had to go to work. I had to go and fix my car. I have to go and do this or that. Oh, I have to do the training as well. It's not like that. It's all, I have to do all those things. Then I have to take the pleasure of doing my workout, appreciating what this workout is giving me, and physically feeling the joy. Like when you eat something sweet, some cake, you feel, your stomach feels, you have the joy of eating that because of the taste. But I have the joy in my body, almost like body is saying, oh, thank you for thinking about me today and giving me what I need, a refreshment, really.
Mm. So you're 70, coming on 71 now, and you're training every day. That's, I mean, you've always trained every day. Is that fair to say?
Well, let me answer this. You see, when somebody else would, when other people will write their approaches to training, when somebody says that person is training every day, in your head you think, wow, that's a very disciplined, that's a military type of guy who really does something every day. That discipline is it relates to not really to philosophical approach of training. It relates to your recognition. In fact, that you somehow you have this knowledge that if you do that, you will be rewarded somehow. You will be you look better. You're going to be stronger than somebody else. But I believe that only in Buddhism or somewhere else they realize they probably would understand better what it means to do something and to have joy of doing that. So I train every day, not because I don't know if I'm going to go and train today. That means I'm not disciplined for that. I don't have that schedule for tomorrow. But what it means, I know that tomorrow when I get up, like you instinctively go and brush your teeth, or you do a couple of things instinctively. That's how I'm going to train. I don't have the schedule. I don't have the discipline. I don't want to do anything that I don't want to do. But this is the point, is that although it's not in my schedule, I believe I will be training. I'm 99.9% sure that tomorrow morning when I come here and I see those two dumbbells, I can't just pass them. Because they say good morning to you. What do I say? I can't just leave. I say, oh, good morning. Let me give you a little walk from the hip to about the head. So we'll have a little fun.
Uh-huh. Well, I think that's a great start, a good introduction to the ideas, and I think we could over the next few interviews we could go into more detail about how you train and how you've arrived at your ideas. That's also interesting for people to know. You know, how did you come to this way of training, which is quite different, and also to talk about how and why it's different from other methods. So maybe we'll get into some specifics about what's good, what's not good, how to recognize, how to cut through a lot of the either useless information or misinformation or just general information. At the moment, there's an explosion of workouts and online workouts that people are looking to online. So I think one thing that would be quite interesting over the coming weeks is to talk about how can people judge the value of certain approach, even if they're not necessarily fitness experts or professionals.
You know how many people I trained directly or indirectly through our Power Fitness 4x4 from the year 1980. So I think it's 40 years now. Tens of thousands of people have done our Power Fitness 4x4, maybe even more, because if they spread that further, then probably more. But it has never been more important moment in time than now to understand my concept of training. And I really, I absolutely mean this. And all those people who are conscious of how valuable, how important it is to have your health. That's the biggest, that's the greatest wealth that you can acquire in your life. And that they want to have a method that will not depend on anything or anybody, that they become independent till the end of their lives in terms of what they have to do, why they have to do it, and how that will be really beneficial for that. I think 40 or 50 years of proving that around the world should be convincing enough. Since this was my business, I worked in LA and in Monterey, near San Francisco, in Honolulu. I believe I really mixed with the elite. I can say elite, but of fitness trainers. I don't mean a few of them, but all the fitness trainers that were in those clubs. And I think that a great majority, if not all of them, have the certain approach that they were taught by some other authority. And I can't say it's wrong, because I don't know. I just know that when I was testing some of the workouts by videotaping the whole workout in the gym, then watching it on the computer and calculating the amount of energy spent to do all these exercises that the individual did, I can tell you that was about 25-30% of my workout that lasted 45 minutes. And that's how I set this unofficial world record, and with Raiko later reaching the same and surpassing that. That's 1,000 lifts of 20 kilograms. That's 45 pounds. And I went around America, Canada, and England, and in the Middle East and everywhere. And no contestant lifted more than 100 times. So obviously that's documented, and that's, now that I don't do it anymore, I find it unbelievable. Because anything that you might be able to do physically, and you go on the public stage and say, I can do this more than anybody else. Perhaps you can, but perhaps there's somebody comes from out of nowhere and can do the same as you. But to do it 10 times more than the next best, that's very unusual. So I'm not boasting anything here. I'm just whatever it may sound like, this is the fact, this is true, and this is only because of the way I recognized how the training should be done.
Thank you, Mr. Dragan. Dad?
Okay. It's a nice sunny day here, so I'm going for a little walk outside with my dog. And I'll talk to you some other time, and you have a good time in England, and we'll talk again.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.